stood outside arrivals with Abraham, practically bouncing on her toes. She had been waiting for this moment. Then she saw him, Joo-Won, exhausted, fresh off the plane. She launched herself at her husband. She wrapped both arms around Joo-Won and covered his face with kisses. Joo-Won laughed. He had been awake for what felt like forever. But somehow, Mee Mee had managed to bring him back to life in about 3 seconds. Abraham looked at Bruno. Bruno looked at Abraham. Neither man said a word. They simply exchanged a look that said everything. Joo-Won pulled Mee Mee closer. "You missed me." Mee Mee pulled back just enough to look at him. "Did I miss you?" She kissed him again. "Maybe." Joo-Won shook his head, laughing. Then he leaned closer. "Wait until I get you alone." Mee Mee's eyes widened. "Oh," Joo-Won gave her that look. "The tour has just started, but it feels long already." Mee Mee smiled. "Very long." "Since I can't be with you every night, yup, very long." Abraham and Bruno exchanged another look. This time Abraham tried very hard not to laugh. Mee Mee grabbed Joo-Won's hand. "Come on." She turned toward the bags. Abraham was already handling them. Joo-Won looked at him. "Thank you, Abe." Abraham nodded. "Of course." Then he glanced at Mee Mee. "Somebody has to keep you two moving." Mee Mee laughed. "Don't ruin the moment." Joo-Won leaned toward her. "Too late." They started toward the car. And as they walked, Mee Mee began humming. Joo-Won heard it. He smiled. Then he joined in. It was playful, soft, just for them. Mee Mee sang, "Wait until you get me alone." Joo-Won answered, "Wait until I get you alone."
My plane can't get my hands on the wheel, no fear. I've been counting every mile. Now I got you back right here. Yeah. Head full of hotel rooms, with your face cut through the gray. I walk out with my bag, and I forget the flight delay. There you are, in the crowd, heartbeat loud, pull me out. I was gone way too long, but I knew I'd come home. Wait until you get me alone. Wait until I get you alone. You've been gone too long, and you've been waiting too long. Wait until we get alone. Wait until we get alone. Wait until we get alone. We don't have to let go.
The song ended almost as quickly as it began, but neither of them stopped smiling. For the first time in weeks, Joo-Won wasn't thinking about rehearsals, or flights, or stages. He was thinking about his wife, and getting her alone. Unfortunately, that part was going to have to wait, because when they reached Mee Mee's Midtown apartment, Joo-Won discovered that home was not exactly the quiet, romantic retreat he had imagined. The 2-bedroom apartment was already feeling small, very small. Especially with Bruno and Abraham inside, and both men were built like they could have been recruited by the Avengers. Joo-Won stood in the doorway. He looked around, then looked at Mee Mee, then back at the apartment. Mee Mee smiled nervously. "It's cozy," Joo-Won smiled. "It is." He didn't complain, but he noticed. There wasn't much room, not for him, not for Mee Mee, and certainly not for a growing security team. He'd spent the night there before, but somehow hadn't realized how small it was. Still, none of that mattered right now. He had finally made it home, and Mee Mee was right there. She wrapped her arms around him again. "I missed you." Joo-Won kissed the top of her head. "I missed you too." For approximately 30 seconds, they enjoyed their reunion. Then the door opened. Jisun walked in. Bomi and the 2 new Korean bodyguards followed behind her. Jisun looked around the apartment. She looked at Joo-Won, then Bruno, then Abraham, then Bomi, then the 2 new guards. She slowly shook her head. "No." Mee Mee blinked. "No what?" Jisun pointed around the room. "No, this isn't going to work." Joo-Won raised an eyebrow. "It's temporary." Jisun reminded him, "You have rehearsal this afternoon. The show is tomorrow." She pointed toward the new security team. "And you two need space." Mee Mee smiled. "Thank you." Jisun smiled back, then said, "At the hotel." Mee Mee's smile disappeared. "Oh, I was thinking Juju, and could I stay here?" Joo-Won sighed. Jisun continued, "The Kairos 5 suite is already reserved. That includes you." And Jisun struggled to say what she considered to be a ridiculous nickname, Juju. Mee Mee looked at her husband. Joo-Won looked at his wife. Their romantic homecoming was being relocated. Again. Then the door opened one more time. Jenny walked in. "Hey, best friend." Everyone turned. Jenny was carrying garment bags. She looked around the crowded apartment, then smiled. "Dang, it's packed up in here." Mee Mee laughed. Jenny held up the garment bags, pointing at Mee Mee. I'm styling her, Bora and Adrienne. Mee Mee blinked. When is Adrienne coming? Jenny smiled. Today. Adrienne told me she's crashing with you. Joo-Won scratched his head. Huh, with us? Jisun walked over to the garment bags. And who authorized this? Jenny smiled sweetly. I was praying you would. She lowered her voice conspiratorially. A little birdie told me the wardrobe department hasn't styled the girlies yet. Jenny smiled. I'd make you proud, boss lady. Jisun wanted to say no. She really did. No, with her whole heart, but Jenny had a point. They didn't have time. Jisun sighed. Okay. Jenny jumped up and down, squealing so loudly that everyone covered their ears. Then Jisun raised one manicured finger, one condition. Jenny stopped. What? Jisun pointed toward the garment bags. They're not wearing these fits. Someone in the background laughed, then quickly disguised it as a cough. Jenny looked down at the clothes. Jisun continued. Kairos 5 is synonymous with high fashion, designer. Those looks are too. She paused. To something. Jenny nodded slowly. Okay. Then she turned toward the room. Who wants to hit Lennox, Phipps, and the boutiques with me? Bomi immediately raised her hand. Jisun shot her a look. Bomi lowered it. Jisun sighed. Go. Bomi clapped. Jenny grabbed her arm. Come on. The two disappeared toward the door. Mee Mee looked around the apartment. Bodyguards' luggage. Garment bags with vetoed outfits. A crew of folks. Plus those two new guys that nobody introduced. And somehow even more people were expected. The little apartment had officially become a production headquarters. Joo-Won leaned toward Mee Mee and whispered, I thought we were going to be alone this morning. Mee Mee whispered back. So did I. They looked at each other. Then both started laughing. Joo-Won took her hand. It won't be long. Mee Mee looked at him. You promise? He squeezed her hand. We have our own home. Mee Mee smiled. She had no idea what he meant. Not yet. But there was something in the way he said it that made her wonder. Then Jisun clapped her hands. Everyone. Hotel. Now. The romantic reunion was officially over. At least for the moment. Meanwhile, up 85 North, a very different kind of reunion was taking place. At the O residence, Min-Jae was packing a small bag. Dina stood nearby. Bond, their Maine Coon cat, sat watching them both. Min-Jae folded another shirt, then stopped. He looked at Dina, then at her stomach. His expression softened. He hated leaving her. Now that he knew she was pregnant, every instinct in him was screaming to stay. Instead, he picked up his watch, then looked at the security monitors. More cameras, more protection, more eyes watching the house. Dina shook her head. Min-Jae! He didn't look up. Yes. You've added another camera. I know. And another one. Right. And one in the hallway. I know. Dina crossed her arms. You're becoming ridiculous. Min-Jae finally looked at her. I'm becoming more careful. Dina sighed. You know I can take care of myself. Min-Jae gave her a look. Dina chuckled. Then turned toward the new security team. Really? She asked. One of the guards stepped forward. Dina suddenly threw a back kick. The guard barely blocked it. She spun. Another guard stepped forward. Dina nearly knocked him off his feet. Everyone froze. Dina straightened her shirt. See? She looked at Min-Jae. I can take care of myself. One of the guards looked at the others, then back at Dina. Whoa! Another guard nodded. Strong mama. Dina smiled. Exactly. Min-Jae shook his head at this. You're strong, I know that. He walked over to her, but there's safety in numbers. Dina opened her mouth to argue. Min-Jae gently placed a hand over her stomach. You're carrying my child. His expression became serious. I don't care how strong you are. He looked toward the expanded security team. I want them here. Dina sighed. She knew he wasn't going to budge. Then Min-Jae's phone rang. He answered. It was Yuna. Her voice was urgent. She had more information about Magnus. Min-Jae's entire expression changed. She also gave him the contact info for a local who could help. He listened carefully, then ended the call. Dina watched him. You found him. Min-Jae nodded. We found him. He walked toward her. For a moment the danger disappeared from his face. He kissed her. Then he knelt slightly and kissed her stomach. I'll be back. Dina touched his face. Be careful. Min-Jae looked into her eyes. I will. He stood, ordered their bodyguard, Joo-Hoon to stay at home and direct the new team, then walked toward the door. Kaeon-ho, his assistant, was waiting. So was Sung-Hung, his other top bodyguard, and Dylan, who could not wait to go after the op. A private jet was waiting to take them to Lexington. Min-Jae took one last look back at Dina. Then he left. The door closed behind him, and the hunt for Magnus had begun. Back at the ranch in Prince George, Grant was already working. Multiple screens surrounded him as he monitored the situation. His tech team at his vineyard in Temecula, California, were on it, too. For the billionaire on the surface, this looked like just another day at the office. Except this particular office involved his beautiful wife Brianna watching the screens with him, private jets, a stolen $40 million horse, and a team of very dangerous men heading toward Kentucky. On another private jet, Prince Soren and Princess Mel were enjoying a much more peaceful journey. The two of them were curled up together, completely comfortable in each other's arms. Edward sat nearby, quietly minding his own business. And then there was Ingrid. She was practically vibrating with excitement. Ingrid was dressed from head to toe in Kairos 5 gear. The jacket, the custom t-shirt, the hat, the accessories, everything. Edward glanced at her, shook his head, and looked away. He tried not to laugh. Soren finally looked over. Ingrid. She turned toward him with a huge smile. Yes, sire. Are you wearing Kairos 5 pajamas? Ingrid looked down at herself. Forgive me, Prince Soren, but they're not pajamas. Edward raised an eyebrow. Those are definitely pajamas. Ingrid ignored him. They are simply part of the casual Kairos collection. Mel laughed. You've been waiting for this. I have been waiting my entire life. Soren smiled and pulled Mel closer. It's just a show. Ingrid gasped. Pardon me, Your Majesty, just a show? It is the event. They were the highlight of your wedding reception, besides you and the princess, of course. Everyone laughed. And somewhere between Kentucky and Atlanta, the worlds of horse racing, K-pop, romance, and organized crime were moving toward the same destination, the South. And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, move to hit that subscribe button. Please like, comment, hit that notification bell, and share this story with somebody who loves a good romance. All of that tells YouTube that folks care about what we're doing, which is showing the world that true love still exists, one episode at a time. Okay, let's get back to it. Back in Petersburg, Rosie was on the road. Mee Mee had personally invited her to the show, and Rosie wasn't about to turn down an invitation like that. She had packed a bag, grabbed some coffee, and started the 8-hour drive south. The road stretched out in front of her. For the first few hours through Virginia and North Carolina, it was peaceful. Music played softly through the speakers. Rosie watched the landscape pass by and smiled as she thought about seeing Mee Mee and Mel again. Then her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Askel. Rosie's smile disappeared. She answered, hello. Askel's voice was calm, but there was something beneath it. Rosie. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel. Yes. I wanted to ask you something. Rosie waited. Come to Avaleria next week. She blinked. Next week? I can send for you. Rosie looked back at the road. For a moment, she didn't say anything. She had been on her way to Atlanta, to the show, to support Mee Mee and her friends, to the life she understood. Going to Avaleria was something else, because she knew this wasn't just a trip for business or to see her girl Mel. No, Askel for sure had other plans in mind, and what about Edward? He hadn't called her since she last left, and she didn't know why. Of course, she still thought about him all of the time, but clearly he was too busy for her. Running into him couldn't be avoided. She and Askel had spoken every day since she left, so going to Avaleria would be part of something bigger, something she wasn't sure she was ready for. Askel, she started. I know, he said gently. You don't have to answer right now. Rosie looked out at the highway. I have to look at my schedule to see if there are any wedding consults next week. She paused. Think about it. Gorgeous, that's all I'm asking. Something made her heart flutter at hearing the endearment. Gorgeous. No one had said that before, at least not like that, not even Edward. The call ended. For several seconds, she simply drove. Then she looked ahead again. Avaleria. The word stayed with her. She didn't know it yet, but the invitation had opened a door. And she wasn't sure she wanted to close it. Back in Atlanta, everyone had finally arrived at the hotel. The Kairos 5 suite was enormous compared to Mee Mee's little midtown apartment. There was room to breathe, room for the dancers, room for the security team, room for costumes, equipment, luggage, and the controlled chaos that came with a major performance. Mee Mee barely had time to take it all in before Joo-Won found her hand. Come with me. She smiled. Where? He didn't answer. He simply led her toward the bedroom. Mee Mee followed. The door closed. A few seconds later, the unmistakable little sign appeared on the door. Do not disturb. Jisun walked past. She stopped, looked at the sign, then looked at the closed door. She sighed, Joo-Won. No answer. She knocked once. Nothing. Jisun looked at her watch. Then she called toward the door. You have 15 minutes. Inside the room, Mee Mee burst out laughing. Joo-Won covered his mouth, trying not to laugh too. Outside, Bruno stood with his arms crossed. Abraham stood beside him. The two bodyguards looked at each other, then Abraham glanced toward Jisun, just a second too long. Jisun caught him. She scowled. What are you looking at? Abraham immediately looked away. Jisun narrowed her eyes. Bruno looked at Abraham and slowly shook his head. Neither man said a word. Inside the bedroom, Mee Mee and Joo-Won were trying desperately not to laugh and not to be too loud. 15 minutes later, Jisun looked at her watch. Time. The door opened. Joo-Won walked out looking entirely too pleased with himself. Mee Mee followed behind him, head down, giggling. Jisun shook her head. They don't pay me enough. She paused. Well, actually they do. She shook it off. Rehearsal. And just like that, the romance was over. At least until after the show. Hey, loves, now wait 1 minute. What exactly were Joo-Won and Mee Mee doing in that room? Hopefully they were in there making some more beautiful music. Girl, and Abraham should have known better, looking our girl Jay up and down like that. Jisun doesn't play. Guess he couldn't help himself. We laughed during that part. Did anything make you laugh? And listen, if you're enjoying all this romance, and especially the music, our soundtrack, please know that Joo-Won and Friends. Part 1 and Part 2 are available now on Apple Music, Spotify, Instagram, Amazon, and other major streaming platforms. And while we're over here talking about it, come join our Patreon family. The link is below. Our Patreon crew gets early behind-the-scenes looks, gets to help with some storytelling decisions, gets special extras, and get updates on our process of making these stories live action with actors. Okay, but we digress. Back to the story. The rehearsal room was already alive when they arrived. Music filled the space. Dancers moved across the floor. The stage crew was preparing equipment, while Jisun watched everything with the focused expression of someone who had already thought through every possible disaster. Jisun told the group that Taekim and Daehun had later call times since neither had a solo performance with a partner. Someone looked around the room and smiled. Well, that explains why it's so quiet in here. Everyone laughed. Then Min-Jae and Bora stepped onto the rehearsal floor, and it was quiet no more. For a moment, Bora simply stood there. It had been a long time since she had performed like this. Once upon a time, Bora had been a star. She had performed on stages in front of thousands of people. She had traveled the world. She had lived the life that came with being one of the most recognizable women in K-pop. Then she became a mother. She stepped away from the spotlight. She focused on raising their toddler when Min-Jae launched an independent music label in Seoul. She built a different kind of life. A life she loved, but none of that had erased what she knew how to do. The music started. Bora moved and the room changed. Min-Jae smiled. Bora was still there, the precision, the confidence, the effortless rhythm. She hit every move. The dancers around them immediately picked up their energy. Mee Mee yelled, "Let's go!" Bora laughed. Then the music kicked in again. She and Min-Jae performed together and the entire room came alive. Mee Mee watched from the side, smiling. Joo-Won leaned toward her. She still has it. Mee Mee nodded. My girl never lost it. Then the rehearsal room doors opened. Adrienne walked in. Seo-Jun looked up and immediately tried to look like he had not looked up. He failed. Adrienne smiled when she saw him. Seo-Jun smiled back, then quickly looked away. Jisun noticed. Bruno noticed. Mee Mee noticed. Joo-Won definitely noticed. Adrienne walked onto the rehearsal floor. Sorry I'm late. Jisun nodded. You're fine, we just started. Seo-Jun stepped forward. I'll show you the choreography. Adrienne smiled. Thanks. They moved into position. The music began and something happened. They just clicked. Their timing was effortless. Adrienne picked up the new choreo quickly and their movements matched. When Adrienne turned, Seo-Jun was already there. When he moved, she followed. A hand brushed a shoulder. A glance lingered just a little too long. A smile appeared when neither of them was supposed to be smiling. They were working. Technically. Everyone in the room could see it. Mee Mee looked at Joo-Won. Joo-Won looked at Mee Mee. They both tried not to laugh, but Jisun crossed her arms. Seo-Jun glanced over. What? Jisun smiled innocently. Nothing. The music stopped. Adrienne caught her breath. Everyone clapped. Not even noticing the praise, Seo-Jun looked at her. So, she turned toward him. So, what are you doing after rehearsal? Before Adrienne could answer, Jisun cleared her throat. Loudly. She whispered, no fraternizing on the tour. Bruno cleared his throat too, even louder. Adrienne looked toward them, then back at Seo-Jun. He smiled. Mee Mee covered her mouth. Joo-Won was practically laughing. Nobody said anything, but everybody knew. Something was happening between those two. Whatever it was, there was no stopping it. And for now, that was enough. Back at the hotel, the suite had finally gone quiet. For the first time all day, there was no music, no dancers, no security briefings, no one calling across the room. Folks had gone out to eat or were sightseeing in the A. It was just Mee Mee and Joo-Won in their room. They showered, changed clothes, then sat together on the edge of the bed, enjoying a rare moment alone. Mee Mee looked down at her phone and smiled. Rosie is in Georgia. Joo-Won looked over. She's here. Almost. Mee Mee turned the phone toward him. Rosie's text was simple. It said, almost in Atlanta. She's been driving all day, Mee Mee said. Joo-Won nodded. That's a long drive. Yeah. Mee Mee smiled, then her expression shifted slightly. She asked about Edward, like if he was coming to the show. He's coming with Soren and Mel, right? Yeah, Mee Mee hesitated. Mel said they haven't really been hanging out much lately. Joo-Won raised an eyebrow. Too bad, I like them together. Mee Mee put her hands on her hips. Don't worry, she said. I'm on the case. Do you think Edward is into her like that? Joo-Won shrugged. Mee Mee, Edward isn't exactly subtle. Did you see how he interrupted her dance with Askel? I think it's pretty clear how he feels. Mee Mee laughed. Talk about marking your territory. She stood up and brushed off her pants. What do you want for dinner? Wanna hit Buckhead? But when she looked back at Joo-Won, he was smiling extra big. She said, this smile can't just be for Edward and Rosie. Well, Joo-Won was indeed not smiling about Rosie, Edward, or Askel. This wasn't his mischievous, do not disturb sign look either. Something else. This was a different smile. She was still learning her new husband. This smile was like he had been waiting for this moment. Juju, you're smiling ear to ear. I know I'm funny, but you're showing all the teeth. Joo-Won laughed, then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a set of keys. He held them up. Mee Mee stared. What's that? Joo-Won smiled. I've got a rental. Juju, you know I have a car. I can drive. He stood and held out his hand. I know. Let me drive you. I got something sexy for us. Come on. She looked at him for a moment. Then she smiled. I forgot. You love to drive. She took his hand. Where are we going? He smiled. Let's go for a ride. The drive took them out of Atlanta, about 40 minutes up 85 north. The city slowly faded behind them. The roads became quieter. Trees lined the streets, and the late afternoon light filtered through the branches. Eventually, Joo-Won turned onto a long stretch of road and pulled into a large piece of property. Mee Mee stepped out of the car. For a moment, she simply stood there. There were trees everywhere. Some had been cleared, opening up a huge expanse of land. The property stretched farther than she could see. Mee Mee looked around. Then she turned toward Joo-Won. What is this? Joo-Won stepped beside her. The land. She looked at him. What land? He smiled. The land for our house. Mee Mee went completely still. Our house. Joo-Won nodded. It's close enough to Atlanta for you. It's near my community here, and far enough away that we can have our own place. She looked back across the property. Joo-Won had clearly thought about this. He had looked at different places. He wanted somewhere close enough to Atlanta that Mee Mee could still have everything she loved about the city, and a home away from home, somewhere close to the Korean community, and in Gwinnett County there was a large population, but also somewhere quiet. Somewhere they could have space, somewhere that belonged to them. A place for us, he said. He looked across the land for whatever comes next. Mee Mee was in shock and Joo-Won noticed. His confidence suddenly disappeared. I hope I didn't overstep. Mee Mee shook her head. No, she laughed softly through her tears. I want to be part of the big decisions. Joo-Won listened, but she looked around at the enormous property. I also love surprises. She turned back toward him. And this one. Her voice stopped slightly. This one is the biggest. Joo-Won smiled. Mee Mee wiped a tear from her cheek. You continue to surprise me in a good way every single day. Joo-Won stepped closer. She wrapped her arms around him. He held her tightly. Joo-Won said, Isaiah 43:19, behold, I will do a new thing. That scripture was in my head the entire flight. Mee Mee, baby, I'm about to do a new thing, and I'm grateful it's with you. More tears welled up in Mee Mee's eyes. They stood together in the middle of the empty property. Nothing had been built yet. No house, no driveway, no walls, just trees, open land, and the beginning of an idea. The beginning of a home. Joo-Won kissed the top of her head. Mee Mee closed her eyes. For a moment, neither of them said anything. Mee Mee looked up at him. He looked down at her. They smiled. And then Mee Mee thought of a song that Joo-Won wrote just for her. The song he proposed with, which promised this very thing.
I see us grow old in your life. New gray hair, same stubborn path. We'll have kids and midnight cries. Little feet and tired eyes. Every morning, every night, I will keep on choosing right. If I had to choose again, I'd still choose you. Over and over again. Me, 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 my home. Me, 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 marry me. Every day, every year, be my forever, please. Me, 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 my home. In your arms, I know. Different worlds, same heart. You are where I go. choose you endlessly.
They sang a little to each other there on the land that would one day become their home. Not on a stage, not for an audience, just for each other. As they sang, they walked slowly across the property hand in hand. Mee Mee laughed. Joo-Won pulled her closer. They turned toward the horizon. The early evening light settled over the trees. The empty space around them suddenly didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like possibility, like a beginning, like home. And beneath their feet, the foundation of their next chapter was already waiting. This has been Christmas in Old Towne Love Stories. If you found yourself replaying the music from this season, Joo-Won and Friends, Part 1 and Part 2 are both available now on Apple Music, Spotify, Instagram, Amazon, and many other streaming platforms. And coming soon, Part 3, featuring Mee Mee's song, Kairos 5, Gem, and the rest of our cast. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave us a comment. We'd love to know, what part of this episode made you laugh and what made you swoon? How long will it take Seo-Jun and Adrienne to admit how they feel? And what's going to happen when Min-Jae and Dylan reach Lexington? Until next time, may God bless you and have a merry every little thing.
My plane can't get hands on the wheel, no fear. I've been counting every mile. Now I got you back right here. Yeah. Head full of hotel rooms. Let your face cut through the gray. I walk out with my bag, and I forget the flight delay. In the crowd, heartbeat loud, pull me out. I was gone way too long, but I knew I'd come home. Wait until you get me alone. Wait until I get you alone. You've been gone too long, and you've been waiting too long. Wait until we get alone. Wait until we get alone. Stepping slow with that same black coat, and the whole terminal fade away. Your smile hit first and the rest of me, like the cold got pushed straight out the day. I held my breath in the parking lot when you said my name like that. I could taste all the missed good nights in the space between now and back. There you are, right on time, all that time, falling behind. I was alone, but not for long. Now you're home, right where you belong. Wait till you get me alone. Till I get you alone. You've been gone too long, and you've been waiting too long. Wait until we get alone. Wait until we get alone. Wait until we get alone. We don't have to let go. You held back. I missed your voice, I missed your face. We were close in the dark, now we're back in the same place. Until you get me alone.